Hello friends, my name is Anne-Marie and today is a great day to learn something new.
So let's do that together. My name is Gabe and we are very happy that you are joining us here on
Studio Classroom. We are on day 2 of our article called A Bunny's Tale, and we have met a couple of characters in yesterday's lesson.
That's right. First of all, we have this rabbit whose name is Bunny Longears. I imagine he has long ears. And we also met somebody else who was a snake, and the snake said he was just a harmless garden snake, but actually when the bunny saw this snake, he thought, no, that does not look like a garden snake. That looks like a killer snake. And he even said that he's a cold-blooded killer snake.
That's right, and this snake is in a pit, and the snake asked Bunny for some help to get out of the pit. Now, we have to see if Bunny decides to help the snake or not, so let's get into the next part of our story right now.
A Bunny's Tale.
Wait!
The serpent urged.
One as intelligent as yourself should see fit to help me.
Intelligent?
Smiled the rabbit.
Very.
Flattered the snake.
I mean no harm. I only ask a favor.
What favor?
Asked the bunny.
A simple one,
Replied the crafty serpent.
Just look through the grass and find a strong stick. Then kindly lift me out of this miserable pit. Afterward, we can see one another off as friends.
Okay, thank you so much, Jack. Let's get right into our story, friends. Wait! The serpent urged. Now we see this word serpent here, friends, and that is another word that we use to talk about a snake. Now he is talking to Bunny, and it says here that he urged Bunny. This is to strongly advise or encourage someone to do something. That's
right. She urged her friend to study harder for the exam. Now when I see the usage of the word urge here, I think a little bit more about that word plea from yesterday. The snake is saying, please, right? Please do something. Wait, the serpent urged. One as intelligent as yourself should see fit to help me. So now the snake is calling this bunny intelligent, which is another word for smart, or very smart in some way. But we also see this phrase, see fit. This means to decide that something is the right thing to do.
All right, here's an example of how you could use see fit in a sentence. He gave her the freedom to do as she saw fit. Now, we read on here that the rabbit likes this flattery. Flattery is something that someone tells you to make you feel good about yourself. We see here intelligent, smiled the rabbit, very flattered the snake. Now, flattery is the noun, and flattered here is the verb. This is to make someone feel pleased because of praise.
That's right. I was pleased, or I was flattered by her kind words. Most people do genuinely feel better about themselves after someone flatters them. And flattery is not always a bad thing. It's nice to praise other people, but you want to be sincere and genuine when you do that.
I would say that there's a difference between flattery and a compliment. If you genuinely want to tell somebody that something is good about them, you can give them a compliment. But oftentimes, if you're flattering someone, you're only giving them the compliment to make them feel a certain way.
That's right, or perhaps because you want something from them, right?
Which is what's going on here.
Exactly. So, the snake is flattering this rabbit. I mean no harm. I only ask a favor. Well, what favor? Usually a favor is some way that you can help somebody. What favor? Asked the bunny. A simple one, replied the crafty serpent.
All right, crafty means to be clever at getting what you want, sometimes in a tricky way. For example, the crafty fox tricked the other animals. Now the serpent says, just look through the grass and find a strong stick. Look through is another great look phrase for you to know.
This is to search for something carefully, or pretend not to see somebody. But here we're talking about looking for something carefully. I looked through the papers to find my homework. And this snake wants the rabbit to look through the grass to find a strong stick, then kindly lift me out of this miserable pit. Miserable. What does that mean? This means very unhappy or uncomfortable.
He was in a miserable situation after failing the test. Yes, that would be very miserable. And then here the serpent says, afterward we can see one another off as friends. To see someone off means to say goodbye to someone as they leave.
That's right. We went to the airport to see them off. That's the way I often hear this phrase. If you're going to send someone to the airport or the train station as they're about to leave, you're going to see them off.
All right, friends. Well, we have more to learn, so let's get into the next part of our story right now.
A bunny's tale,
I really shouldn't.
said the bunny.
But maybe I'll look after you this once.
So he found a stick and lifted the ugly snake out of the pit and onto the grass nearby.
My,
Exclaimed the rabbit as he looked over the snake.
you look disgusting.
Yes.
Grinned the snake.
And you look delicious.
Delicious?
Cried the rabbit.
But I thought...
What is this bunny going to do? Is the bunny going to do what the serpent wants and help him out of the pit, or does the bunny know better?
Well, the bunny should know better, right? The bunny says, I really shouldn't, okay? But maybe I'll look after you this once. There's another look phrase. To look after usually means to take care of someone or something. For example, someone might say this when they're going away for a while. Can you look after my dog or my plants while I'm away?
That's right. Now, the bunny says, maybe I'll look after you this once. So he did what the serpent wanted him to do. He found a stick and lifted the ugly snake out of the pit onto the grass nearby. This word nearby is a good common word for you to know, friends. This means that it is close in distance.
There's a coffee shop nearby if you're thirsty and want some coffee. Well, this grass is nearby, of course. My, exclaimed the rabbit as he looked over the snake. Earlier in this lesson, he also said, oh dear, right? Or my. That's another way to express surprise or amazement about something. So my, he says, as he looks at this snake. Or the phrase we see here is to look over. What does this mean?
Okay, if you look over something, it usually means that you're checking something very quickly. I usually look over my emails before I send them to make sure that I haven't said something strange or had made a typo.
That's right. So this rabbit, of course, is realizing what kind of snake this is, and that makes him quite surprised. In fact, he thinks this snake looks disgusting. Okay, earlier we saw that the snake is ugly, and he looks disgusting. Yes, grinned the snake, and you look delicious.
Oh, well, Bunny was certainly not flattering the snake,
Yeah.
and that's probably not a good thing because the snake says Bunny looks delicious. If something is delicious, it means that it tastes very good.
That's right. Of course, there are many delicious foods out there. The chocolate cake was delicious. Often we do just say delicious, not delicious, when we're saying this word quickly. But you can make that E a long E if you really want to emphasize that. Delicious, cried the rabbit. But I thought, well, that's the end of this section, Anne-Marie.
It is the end of this section. What do you think is going to happen to Bunny, friends? I don't think it's anything good.
Yeah, I imagine it's not going to be a happy ending. But I don't know. We're going to have to find out. But first, let's go to today's Info Cloud.
A bunny's tale.
Don't be surprised,
Said the scheming reptile.
You knew I was trouble when you lifted me out of that hole.
What happened to the little rabbit? I cannot tell. I didn't dare look on. But learn a lesson as you look at this simple tale. When trouble calls, watch out. Keep moving on and don't look back.
What happened to Bunny, friends? The scheming reptile has something to say here. Don't be surprised. You knew I was trouble when you lifted me out of that hole.
Huh. So the snake is not sorry at all about what he is about to do. In fact, here he's kind of, making fun of this rabbit for not following his own instincts. The rabbit knew what he should have done. He should have followed his instincts. That means follow that inner feeling telling you what to do, but he didn't do that.
He did not. Now, what happened to the little rabbit, I cannot tell. Our writer here is saying that she is not quite sure what happened to the rabbit.
And why is that? Because she looked away. The writer looked away. The narrator of the story didn't want to look at this. They didn't want to look on. Okay, you see that phrase, look on. This is to watch something without being involved.
Here's an example. He just looked on while the others played basketball. So he was watching, he wasn't participating.
This kind of reminds me of some things I see on social media these days. So for example, someone will post a video of animals in nature, wild animals, and there's one animal attacking another animal. And they're usually quite interesting videos, but almost every time, in almost every situation, there's a comment below saying, "Why didn't you go and help that poor creature?"
Oh, it's just nature though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is just nature. But of course, sometimes all you can do is look on. And that's kind of how I felt about this writer as well. I was like, well, hey, why didn't you go and help that rabbit and help the rabbit get away from the snake? But of course, this is just a story. We do have another phrase we'd like to talk about in this next sentence here. Learn a lesson as you look at this simple tale. To look at something. This is to direct your eyes towards something or read it.
Take a look at today's newspaper. Now, friends, we have entered the part of our lesson where we are talking about the moral of the story. So we've heard the story, we heard what happened to the bunny. What can we learn from this situation?
All right, well, here's what our writer or narrator thinks that we can learn. When trouble calls, watch out. Keep moving on and don't look back. All right, well, let's take a look at that phrase, watch out. We often say this when we want to warn someone to be careful or pay attention to danger.
Watch out, there's ice on the road. You need to be careful, you don't want to slip. Now we see here that if you know that there's danger that's calling to you, something wrong that is asking you to do it or tempt you, you should keep moving on and don't look back. What does it mean here when we're talking about looking back?
Yeah, this is to think about something that happened in the past. So for example, Cindy looked back on her childhood with happy memories. So you can look back on things from the past. Often that is okay to do. We all have memories after all. However, if you know that there's something you shouldn't do, you should keep moving on and don't think, I wonder what things would have been like if I had done that. Maybe I can turn around and go do it. No. If it's something that is trouble, then you should keep moving on.
Just like our bunny here in our story, Bunny was happily skipping down the road at the beginning of our article. He was just heading home and he heard that voice call to him. He could have kept going, but he chose to look back and he got into a lot of trouble.
He should have gone straight home, that is, directly home. All right, well, what exactly happened to the bunny? We're not exactly sure, but it does not look like a happy ending. Right now, it is time for something happy, I hope, and that is today's fun fact.
All right, friends, let's talk a little bit more about what we've learned from this story. We're going to use our Talk About It question to do that. How can we learn to make good choices?
This is a great question, and especially considering we just finished reading a story. Granted, this is not a real story, it's fiction. It didn't really happen. But often we can learn through other people's mistakes. In fact, we should do that. That's one of the reasons why we should read about historical figures and things that happened in the past, is so that we don't make those same mistakes ourselves.
I think another thing we can do is to listen to good advice. Many people in our lives, like maybe your parents or teachers that you know, they want to help you make good choices, and they probably have some advice to give you. So choosing to listen to that advice will help you in the future.
So friends, ask yourself this question: how can you make good choices?
That's all the time we have for today. My name is Anne-Marie.
And my name is Gabe, saying see you next time right here on
Studio Classroom.